Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a massive heavyweight clash that's literally hiding in plain sight right beneath our tires. We're talking about the battle between flexible and rigid pavements. We interact with this stuff every single day of our lives, right? Yet we almost never stop to think about the incredible engineering and honestly, the insane economics poured into it. So let's uncover the whole shebang together.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with 1, the pavement showdown, then move to 2, designing the perfect road, hit 3, the true cost analysis, and finish up with 4, picking the right pavement. Let's get right into it.
Section 1, the pavement showdown, entering the arena. First things first, we need to establish the core dichotomy of our everyday commute. It's a question you might just idly ask yourself while cruising down the interstate. Why is this stretch asphalt, but the next one is concrete? The answer isn't just about what materials a local contractor happened to have on hand that week. It's a highly calculated decision. So we've got 2 distinct contenders here. Flexible pavement, which is your standard asphalt, gets its name because it's literally designed to yield, bend, and deflect under the weight of tires. It's got some give to it. Rigid pavement, on the other hand, is your Portland cement concrete. Instead of bending, it uses these incredibly solid slabs to take that heavy, localized weight and distribute it over a much wider area of the dirt underneath. So you've got 2 completely different engineering philosophies for keeping cars moving. Section 2, designing the perfect road. The rules of the game. Because before a single drop of asphalt or concrete hits the dirt, engineers have to figure out exactly how thick to make these roads. Now, what's really fascinating about the North Carolina Department of Transportation, or NCDOT, is the sheer mathematical rigor they rely on. Using the AASHTO 1993 manual, engineers use these massively intimidating logarithmic equations just to dictate what they call the structural number, or the thickness of a road. We're talking deep, heavy math here, no guesswork allowed. But rather than getting bogged down in the logarithms, let's look at the actual variables those equations use. We start with eaxles, or equivalent single-axle loads. This is essentially how engineers measure the punishing weight of heavy truck traffic. And here's a crazy fact for you. When engineers design a highway, they're looking at your car, well, actually scratch that. Mathematically, loads from standard passenger cars are considered completely negligible. They're almost exclusively looking at how many heavy trucks are going to roll over it during its 30-year design life. And that brilliantly illustrates the other rules of the game. Engineers absolutely must factor in reliability, meaning how crucial is it that this road doesn't fail? A local road might have an 85% safety factor, but a massive freeway demands 95. They also look at terminal serviceability, which is basically how bumpy and cracked will they let the road get before they're forced to fix it. And finally, the soil-resilient modulus. That's just a fancy way of measuring the fundamental raw strength of the dirt sitting right underneath the road. Section 3, the true cost analysis. The plot twist. We know how to design the 30-year physical structure, but the real climax of our story is what happens when we look at the financial scorecard over time. This brings us to life cycle cost analysis, or LCCA. Think of it exactly like buying a car. You can't just look at the sticker price on the lot, right? You have to calculate a decade of gas, oil changes, replacing the tires, doing the brakes, the whole 9 yards. For roads, agencies look at a massive 45-year period. They combine the initial construction costs with all the future maintenance and rehabilitation required just to keep the thing drivable. According to the NCDOT manual, flexible asphalt demands a seriously grueling timeline just to survive its 45-year analysis period. The maintenance schedule is intense. At year 12, they have to mill and replace the top surface. At year 17, more patching. At year 23, another milling and replacing. By year 34, they're grinding off 3 inches and adding major structural components. And then at year 40, a massive 5.5-inch asphalt overlay. That's a lot of orange barrels, a lot of lane closures, and frankly, a ton of taxpayer money spent over the decades. Now, let's contrast that with rigid pavement. The timeline here is strikingly empty by comparison. Concrete requires far fewer interventions. You basically have some joint sealing and 1% patching at year 17, and then some minor patching or diamond grinding way out at year 30. And that's practically it until the end of the 45-year window. It's almost a set-it-and-forget-it structure compared to asphalt's constant upkeep.
As highlighted in a comprehensive thesis from Middle East Technical University by Murat Deniz, these maintenance schedules are really the hidden iceberg of taxpayer infrastructure costs. It's not just what the agency pays to build it, it's the constant maintenance plus the user costs. And user costs are exactly what they sound like: the time and money everyday drivers waste sitting in traffic jams caused by those endless work zones.
Section 4, picking the right pavement, the final scorecard. So, the absolute crucial point is, when we combine the initial construction costs with those 45-year maintenance burdens, who actually wins the showdown? The Me Too research evaluated an incredibly thorough 108 different design scenarios. And the data paints a crystal clear picture. Concrete wins hands down in high traffic, completely regardless of the soil. Concrete also wins in low traffic if the soil is weak. Honestly, flexible asphalt is really only competitive on overall cost when you hit a very specific Goldilocks scenario: low traffic combined with high-strength soil. The thesis makes this absolutely clear. Even though asphalt looks like an incredible bargain on day one, when the contractor hands over the initial bill, the relentless heavy cost of future maintenance makes rigid concrete the true financial winner in almost every single heavy-duty, long-term scenario.
The research did bring up some super interesting nuances too. Obviously, worse soil or heavier trucks drastically drive up the required thickness and therefore the cost of both materials. But there are also economic factors at play here. Higher discount rates, which essentially measure how much less future money is worth to us today, can slightly blur the finish line, bringing the total 45-year costs of asphalt and concrete a bit closer together in the economic models.
But how do government agencies actually make the final call in the messy real world? Well, the NCDOT has a specific rule of thumb for this. After running that massive 45-year life cycle cost analysis, if the total cost difference between asphalt and concrete is within 10% of each other, they are officially considered equal. In these tiebreaker cases, the state might accept alternate bids from contractors and start considering other things like local preferences or construction impacts. However, if the difference in that life cycle cost is greater than 15%, the NCDOT strictly mandates using the lowest cost alternative, period. At that point, the decision is taken entirely out of the realm of preference, industry lobbying, or municipal desires, and it becomes a matter of strict, objective economics. Understanding all of this completely changes how you look at your morning commute, doesn't it? The roads we drive on aren't just arbitrary slabs of material. They are the direct result of intense mathematical formulas, deep soil analysis, and 45-year economic forecasts. So I want to leave you with this final thought. Next time you hit the highway, look down and ask yourself, are you driving on an upfront bargain or a long-term investment? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep asking questions about the world around you.